And we are recording. What
Hey,
is going on, ladies and gentlemen? You're listening to episode, I guess, JW, I'll let you do
18.
it.
It's
18.
episode 18. What's
We
going
didn't
on?
forget this week. Our
Hey,
um
Jack.
our awesome co-host has provided us with the episode for reference this week. You're joined this week by Joshua Davison, Mr. Daniel DeJohnny, and our awesome guest co-host for the week, Mr. JW Handal. What is up, JW?
GW Handle in the house, guys. Thank you so much for allowing us to join you. We're coming to you live here from the River City Foundry. This is an awesome facility. This is not just a warehouse. This is a just incredible place for creativity and entrepreneurship. I'm gonna walk over here so we can get comfortable and just talk, catch up, see what's going on.
You're at the warehouse of creativity. Like creativity is made in that warehouse.
Amen. This is where dreams come true, innovation comes to life.
Awesome. What's behind you? Like for those who aren't on video,
Oh, you want to know what's behind?
Yeah. Show us what's behind you. So those that are just listening.
All right. So back here we have a 3D printer. We have some laser cutters. We have drill presses, and of course, because this is Independence Day weekend and props to our troops, we always have our flag to represent, baby.
I love it. So which one of those equipment is your favorite? Which one do you use every day?
Well, you got to remember, this is an incubator and accelerator for the community.
Yep.
So I personally am not using a 3D printer, but folks are able to come in here and have access to all these technologies. Columbus is not what everybody may have preconceived notions about. I mean, it's very innovative. We are the corporate center for a lot of companies like TSYS, Aflac. I mean, names that you know and love, you use every day. And so we're happy to be here in what is essentially a community-driven initiative. The community has rallied together and brought money, funds, resources. Everything you see here is donated. We have leadership here that has, I mean, I just support, I'm a supporter. I'm broadcasting from here instead of my office or any other place because, you know, this is where right now we're making it happen, where innovation's coming to life.
Love it. I love it. So I want to jump in real quick as we get started. So you and I know each other very well, but for those who don't know who you are, can you give us like that 30,000 foot view of just who you are and what you do? And then we'll dive into more detail in a bit.
Absolutely. So my name is GW Handal, and I'm a subject matter expert in branding, business development, strategic communications, and I own a company, a firm, GW Handal Design. We're a regional, national, and international branding firm. We specialize in making dreams come true, baby.
Love it. I love it. I love that's a good one, man. So let's jump right in. I want to go right to the very beginning. So one of my favorite things is really understanding what guides people to become an entrepreneur. Like what guided you into the path that you've become. So let's start a little bit about like where you're from and like kind of like what your like childhood was like and what kind of maybe where you developed maybe entrepreneurial tendencies at that.
You know, I have to always harken back to the fact that I'm an immigrant. My family, I came to this country when I was 2 years old. We arrived in Miami. I became a citizen as a teenager. But arriving in Miami in the early 80s was a totally different vibe. I mean, I was one of the only Hispanic kids in my school. I remember teachers yelling at me and I couldn't understand. So I would teach myself how to speak English by what my parents would teach me by reading books, but also primarily by watching the news. Interestingly enough, that was something that allowed me to gain a lot of insight into, you know, just how to translate what I knew was already going on in the world to the slang and the common language found in Miami. And you got to remember, Miami in the 80s was exactly what you think it was. It's not the glamorous showcase that it is now, this international, you know, hub of art, culture, and music, but it slowly became that. So for me personally, it has a special place in my heart. Now, Miami, all the vibes, the textures, the colors, the sounds, the food, the flavor, I mean, left to right. That really, for me, brought together a sense of design and taste that is unique. But now translating that to the Deep South, where I'm at, where my heart and my passion is, like I say, again, there's Silicon Valley, a lot of valleys, but we're in the River Valley, and the water's real nice.
I love it. So, you know, I'm really fascinated by this. So picking up English basically for watching the news and books and things like that, you know, was there, you know, what was the struggle with that? Because I feel like, especially the media, I feel like your perception is going to be very warped because the media obviously is all about giving you stories, which is going to give you the most shock value, right? Or keep you engaged. So it's not like a full picture of society as much as just a narrative they control. So well, did that have an impact, especially if you're younger, right? Were you looking at maybe, does that like make you almost look at the world more cynically, or it was like giving you certain like perceptions which are not true or valid? Because it's just a fascinating scenario to me, like, you know, picking up a new language through mediums that are really just
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize that, especially as they immigrate here. I mean, they want to hold on to their cultures. If we go to Brooklyn or Queens, I mean, we may see the Italian flag, the Irish flag, and then sometimes you wonder why on the border you see the Mexican flag. I mean, ingrained in us is a sense of a longing for our culture, but we have to assimilate and bring that into what is America. I mean, we are all immigrants at the end of the day. My grandfather had a great, I don't want to even say a saying, because I mean, it was really from the heart. He would tell us and remind us that we did not descend from any monarchy or from any country. We descended from ships, and it's very true. And I feel like you know, this community is rich with immigrants from healthcare to technology, folks that are maybe even fourth or fifth generation, even like yourself, or you know, people that are on our staff and on our teams. And if they took a little time to maybe explore the genealogy, they would know as well that they're immigrants. But at the same time, there is an obligation on the part of all of us to assimilate, to adopt the norms and, you know, just the cultural heritage of where we are. And then that's just very important as well. So yeah, it's a balance.
How much do you remember before coming to like Miami? Like how much is it like too young to remember, or do you have a little bit of like distinct memory from that?
I have a little bit of a memory from that time, but for the most part, what just stands out is going to elementary school and not understanding what anybody was saying. You know, going to my daycare and kicking the principal and running out of the school and getting expelled and having to go to another school, and I just didn't understand what she was saying. You know, in the time there was still corporal punishment. So as this woman is like paddling me, I don't understand what's going on. I've never even seen one of these things. So needless to say, my parents were not thrilled when they got a call that they had to pick me up at 4 or 5 years old because I just kicked the principal in the shins.
I think you just made every 5-year-old's dream, though. that probably happened. That's so. All right.
I do not endorse that or recommend violence to any toddler or adolescent.
Oh, I'm not saying we endorse it. I'm just saying every 5-year-old is probably like, yeah.
Amen. Amen.
So I want to fast forward a little bit. So did you go to college? I actually don't even know this.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Absolutely.
Where did you go?
The original plan is that, you know, I was going to be in the foreign service. I was going to be a diplomat, like a lot of people in my family, especially on my mom's side of the family. We have a rich legacy of folks that have committed themselves to public service. And so that was the plan. I was going to go to Georgetown. I was going to be in at the Walsh School of Foreign Service, and that was going to be like my future. I ended up deciding that, some events took place in my life at 17 that changed my life. I was on my own at 17, and I had to quickly grow up. And I don't know, we could deep dive later, or I don't know if it's a forum, but that quickly told me that I needed to figure out what I was going to do. So I went to Florida International University, and then I also went to Villanova. And, you know, I majored in international finance and marketing, business. But, you know, I think that in the 90s, the time was so different that everything the kids are learning now, they're teaching me. So graduating with international finance and business was great. And I think it helped me get into Oppenheimer, where my internships were, going to New York, going to Warner. Like, those things help. But I have a lot of love for my schools and all the teachers and professors that really helped mold who I am today. So
what happened since you're done college? Did you immediately start your entrepreneurial path? Did you get into just a normal corporate like job? You were mentioning internships. So like, what was like your beginning of your like career journey like?
Well, I mean, it's hard to put a place where you start. I mean, I've been working since I'm 14 years old. I had a paper route. Like, I planted flowers for my neighbors. I picked up odd jobs. I washed cars. I did whatever.
You're a young hustler.
Always young hustler, always. And then I spent a lot of summers working at a large national travel franchise company. And these guys really set the tone for my own ability to navigate the corporate world, and what it was like to the formalities, the decorum, the process, things that we take for granted now. Like, we had to suit and tie to work as a 16-year-old every day, during the summer. I mean, that's something you don't see now. Everybody's real chill, laid back, you know. there's a different kind of culture. But at that time, because you got to remember, I was born in 1812. So it was a different time.
You look good for being born in 1812, man. Is it Benjamin
Botox.
Button?
You gotta teach me your secrets.
I didn't know it was like Benjamin Button or something. I'm like, what is, all right.
That's it.
I'll make sure to include it in the show notes for you, by the way. Like, A.W. Handal, born in 1812. You'll see how many. There you go.
Exactly. Right before the War of 1812. Just
it'll go on your Wikipedia page forever.
Amen.
So I'm curious, in the corporate world especially, you went during very impressionable years. And
your audio's out, Josh.
I'm trying. There we go. Good.
There you go.
So
there you go.
One of the things I was wondering was you went during a very impressionable time where usually the trend is between like 15 to 25. Most people on our shows one day became who they would eventually become and learn their habits. So I know a lot of people talk negative, especially in the show, about the corporate world, and you can get into like to wearing suits in the summer and the kind of the structure, stuff like that. But I'm curious, like, what were some of the biggest takeaways you took from it that you still use to this day, from maybe habits or what's way you think or things you just don't do because you saw how they were done? Like, what are some of those takeaways?
That's a phenomenal question. I think the most important thing I took away from the corporate world was a sense of discipline, a sense of service, a spirit of service, a structure that sometimes we kind of like want to disengage from now. But we still have to work with folks that are just that is the cornerstone of how they operate. And so adopting those skill sets from an early point in my career, I think really help our firm now deliver even better quality service to our clients. At the same time, for me as an impressionable young teenager doing my internship at Oppenheimer, working in the music industry, immersing myself in culture and technology, but also understanding that the corporate structure was something that we didn't know at that time was going to change. We didn't know that we're going to have foosball tables and hammocks and we'd all be hanging out. It was a little bit different. And I know that we're getting away from that here in our fourth industrial revolution. But I think for me, formatively, it was very important.
One of my big questions for you was then, what do you see in the corporate world that you said to yourself, I'll never do again? Or I don't understand why this is in place. Because I feel like for all the positives you can take away from corporate, probably just as many negatives too that you can use to learn. So I'm curious, is there any like negative things you saw in the corporate world that has made sure that like with what you're doing now or just the way you operate that you said, I'm not?
One of the negative things I saw in the corporate world wasn't so much from leadership or management or, boards or directors. It was really from the people there. It was a sense of like me first, I'm going to climb up the ladder, knock everybody down. And people forget, the toes you step on the way up are usually connected to the ass you're kissing later. So, you really have to remember that. And it was the fact that people were very just selfish. They didn't think about the bigger picture, kind of like as we do now. There's a greater sense of empathy. The corporate culture was very me, but all rallying behind these brands and these ideas with a big, thick policy and procedure manual and an employee guideline. And, we didn't rally around mission statements so much then as we do now. But at the same time, those were the primary negatives. I also saw that there was a lack of empathy and concern sometimes for the consumer. And to me, that's a driving force at our firm. That's one of our cornerstones. Again, going back to that spirit of service. So sometimes it was like a volume instead of quality. And to me, that's not something I like.
So let's dive in. Your first entrepreneurial venture. Let's talk like what made you decide one day, instead of all hail corporate, it's now I'm going to think differently and do something on my own. Because you have obviously been running your company now for over 16 years. And I think entrepreneurship really didn't become this mainstream popular thing until basically Mark Zuckerberg and social network and IPO happened. Because before that, because I remember when I started my company in 2009, a lot of people, and this is just 2009, it's not that long ago, even though somehow it's 7 years ago already. People look at you and be like, it's the same thing as telling them you do heroin every day was like their natural reaction. So I'm curious. Meanwhile, Dan's laughing in the middle of Chicago. So I'm really curious because 16 years ago is even more foreign because this is like I guess .com bubble hasn't happened truly yet. Like it's maybe the beginning cusp of it, right? So talk to me a little bit about like what got you into this? And then I'm really curious about like everyone's perception around you and the network you had when you said, hey, I'm doing this on my own.
You know, for me, it was you have to skin your knees, you have to cut your teeth, you have to also pay your dues. A lot of people aren't willing to do that. So one of the things I told, you know, one of the first people I worked for is I'll mop the floors, I'll clean the toilets. I was willing to do anything. And my current PA, her name is Z, Arisha Lawrence, she said the same things to me. And that told me that she was willing to do anything it took to get in the door. Now, I've never had to wash a toilet or clean the floor or mop the floor, but there was that spirit, again, of service. What told me that I was ready for an entrepreneurial initiative on my own was I really felt like I could deliver a certain quality that I didn't see in the marketplace. I knew that there was a big gaping hole in a standard, a design, a vibe, a feel that many marketing companies can accomplish, many branding companies can accomplish. However, you have to bring in your own tastes, your own flavors, your own experiences. And everything I picked up by living in New York, by living in Miami, by spending time in Los Angeles, from South America, in Europe. I mean, I brought these things all together and I said, you know what, it's time for me to then launch my own platform, something that I can deliver the same results to the people that are now entrusting me to mirror to them what is their image, their brand, their position, even growing their idea from a business development point of view. So that's why we say we're not just a marketing company. That's 1998. We're a strategic development, strategic communications and branding consulting firm. And our job is not to promote ourselves, but rather to lift and promote and elevate our clients. And if we're not doing that, and then we're over here populating our LinkedIn and we're too busy, with other things, we're not, again, committed to that spirit of service. And that's what told me really that I was ready to take the entrepreneurial challenge. Now, I could talk about my experience at the biotech if you want. I mean, that's something that really was formative for me.
Absolutely.
As well.
No, let's definitely talk about it for a minute. So,
So
let's start with what were you doing with biotech, and then kind of like what your role was and what kind of happened. Like, what was your takeaways from it? What were your experiences like? Yeah, basically, how did that form you?
All right, so I'll keep it kind of brief because biotech is an interesting kind of industry, and it's still growing. Clinical research was an important thing, and we had to have evidence-based medicine to make the proper decisions. And keep in mind, this is 2003. I got a call, hey, can you help me? Business is underwater. We need help. We really want to expand our footprint. We need a certain vibe in here. So it's going to be 3 months. Come help us. So 3 months turned into many years. And we made many mistakes, and we learned a lot through that process. We definitely learned what not to do and what to do. I mean, for me, it was always about understanding that you had to be an expert in certain areas. We couldn't just wing it. Now, certainly, you can learn and try, but the risk in not understanding a process for me was tough. We went in with this grand vision, and it took longer than it should have, but at the end of the day, we achieved the results. Our biotech is now used in hospitals and clinics around the country and around the world, and it's bringing a lot of clinical value to people. But again, it harkens back to the spirit of service. But also, I always remember a phenomenal doctor named Dr. Jeff Kingsley. He would say, we must all work together to improve the human condition. And that is one of the takeaways I had from the biotech. One of the takeaways that just in general led me forward into developing a really solid brand presence for our company in the healthcare space, where we would help healthcare information technologies and just even fintech and edtech. I mean, we were helping people by applying those same methodologies. We were not subjecting branding to our own opinions. That what we were doing, we were creating brands and designs that are based on science and data, what consumers are telling us. This isn't something that you don't see really anymore. People are just like, oh, this looks fly, this is dope. No, it's what are the consumers telling you? What are the problems? Work from the back to the front, establish proof of concept first. I mean, these are things we had to really kind of learn. We relied on the wrong people also. That was one of the big things we learned. We put our faith and trust in the wrong people. And now when you have full command and control of your operation, you can still rally and bring together allies, but choose the right people so that you don't end up wasting time, which essentially is money. And I know that sounds very cliche, but there is no currency like time.
How did you get involved with biotech? Like, what brought you to getting involved with this back then?
So again, it was this 3-month initiative where they're like, just come in. I was already doing branding. I was already immersed in strategic communications. I was involved in the real estate industry in terms of helping one entrepreneur who won the lottery scale his business. And so because I had a business education, I was able to help him scale his operation. There were other initiatives that happened in Miami that then led the founders and the people who were putting together this biotech say, hey, we need to bring Will Handal in. And we need to get him to help us scale and brand and put together everything from the vision to the direction and bring the right people in, because a lot of these folks involved and founding it were too busy making money on their own, and they still are. So they weren't immersed. So they counted on me to bootstrap the whole thing. And we did it out of a little tiny conference room in the middle of nowhere. We grew into a big company making millions of dollars. And I mean, we learned a lot. We made a lot of mistakes, but that failure, that pain, all of that we went through has brought us to where we are today, and I wouldn't trade it for a minute.
I want to know is, so let's go back to your company for a second. 16 years, you said, I'm going to do this. Why did you decide ultimately in marketing, and what was the need, especially back then, like that you said, we can make a viable business out of this?
Dude, I mean, okay, so again, it's a calculated risk, right? I mean, I wish I could say there was one specific thing, but it's just like a myriad of things that I saw were happening that I knew needed to change. We needed to immerse ourselves and get ourselves in touch with what other people needed, not so much what other people were wanting. We needed to have a forward vision. There were too many talkers, very few walkers. I mean, that's kind of what we're seeing now as well. But that's what told me that we had a special skill set and a gap that we could fill. We knew we had a certain taste level, a certain experience, a certain bandwidth, that we weren't in this little bubble, that we had a vision well beyond. And that's what told us that we had to really get out there and launch our design firm. And I even disliked using the word marketing firm, because I mean, marketing is marketing. What we're really doing is appealing to people's emotions, relating to them, a sense of empathy, to connect with them in an authentic way, to hold a mirror up to them and say, you know what? This is you right now, but this is what you can be in 10 years. And sometimes entrepreneurs, no matter how masterful or how visionary they might be, they can't see that right out of the gate. And they need supporters, endorsers, and influencers to help them and to stand behind them. And many times we do this at no cost. I mean, there are startups, many, that we help at no cost. Now, other kind, don't be flooding me now with emails to help you at no cost. But if I have to personally be able, yeah. Whoa.
Personal email, phone number.
You want his email me first. No, I'm just kidding. Don't do that.
Yeah, I mean, I have to personally be able to get behind the initiative. You know, if I can't personally get myself behind the initiative, then I'm not doing it. I mean, I immerse myself, and then soon enough, before you know it, you're kicking ass, and you don't even know you're kicking ass. You got to be so busy that you don't even realize you're kicking ass yet. You know what I mean? Except for maybe when you lay your head on the pillow at night, you're like, you know what? Wow, that was amazing. I don't know if you've ever read a book. It's called The Inevitable by Kevin Kelly.
Actually, no, I haven't. I got to add to the list.
Go pick that book up. I think it's important for everybody just to it's just a sneak peek into the future and AI. A lot of what we were doing at the biotech involved artificial intelligence. And those were some of the mistakes we made. We thought, oh, we're just going to call one of these big blue chip companies that writes code and software, and we're going to knock it out of the park. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. We ended up having to bring in partners from Europe that were able to bring in American technologies, combine them, logic systems, and really develop something very sophisticated. And how does that translate into design? Well, for me, I always harken back to what Steve Jobs said: design is how things work, end to end, from what your uniforms look like, to what your pens look like, to what your logo looks like, but also the processes involved in generating revenue, in having a streamlined accounting process. Those are designed elements. Now, they can be branded or they can not be branded, but it's important to consider them as part of the design process.
One of the reasons I think you and I get along so well is because we decided, both of us, to take the hardest business route I think there is, because we're in a business that depends on our clients for cash flow. You know, we're in a service-based business. It's not the same as just residual income coming in, a app that you can just flip. You know, at the end of the day, our assets are our people, right? Because we're technically speaking, we're paper poor companies that has cash flow. And that's how we make our money.
Right.
So, we're a very unattractive model for the entrepreneurs who want to raise investor dollars, stuff like that. But we're a very attractive model for those that you can stand out. You can make real revenue and real growth. And we're also, to an extent, recession proof because you don't depend on investor money to stay afloat. You just have to depend on producing great work and keep people coming back and forth. So it's one of the things that's very interesting about our model. And we haven't had many people with this model on the show. So I really want to get into an operational talk for a second, which is for those who are seriously considering getting into starting their own company, starting their own venture, and especially in this situation, service. How did you go about finding your first customers, and how did you go about figuring out what is the right value proposition to do billing and how you're going about? Because I think this is probably the two biggest obstacles for very early stage companies, especially in the service layer. And I'm curious to hear how, without going into the specifics, but how you guys came up with these solutions to these problems.
Okay, so first of all, everything is a calculated risk. People I hear people all the time. Well, I don't know if it's gonna work out. I don't know. I'm scared. I'm worried. And the biggest thing is just put your neck out there, and if it gets chopped off, it's gonna regenerate. You know what I mean? Like, take the risk, take the jump, take the leap, immerse yourself, get out there, be willing to put it all on the line. Because it's just, you hear it in all these talks and all these people and influencers and motivators giving the same spiel. At the end of the day, it's the same formula. Passion breeds success. You have to have the ability to blend and adapt these things. So for us, it was, we had to go out there and really build our credibility and our message. And it was by delivering results. So we were working on contingency. We would say, okay, we're going to deliver the following, but with an unconventional structure for funding it. Or we would say, we're going to meet these metrics or these outcomes, and then we can be compensated. So that was the risk we took. And it also drove us, to maybe have a little bit more passion, especially in those early days. Now we're on a 2.5 month waiting list, and it's a little bit different. But in those days, we had to put ourselves out there. That's one of the issues right now, I believe very firmly, that we need to cultivate in this country, in the world, is just access to capital. We have a lot of high net worth people that have made a lot of money, and startups and entrepreneurs are not going to go to the bank and qualify for a conventional loan with no tax returns and 2 years of financials. There need to be endorsers and influencers and community leaders that aren't just talking, that aren't doing TED Talks, that are out there, that are like, okay, look, by the way, this is my checkbook. Well, I don't want to show the number. Write the check to the people that are making these environments possible, and let's stop talking about it so much. Let's actually do it.
Did you have that checkbook just to use for this answer?
You just in case.
I'm just gonna bring it out. I know this is gonna be something I need. You ever watch? I don't watch a lot of television, but do you ever watch Silicon Valley?
No, I don't. I also don't have time for TV. I watch one thing a day, and that's the nightly news at 6:30 with Lester Holt. That used to be with Brian Williams. I don't care if you don't like NBC or whatever. I watch it more for the optics, what's going on, a tone, a tenor, and that's it. And then I read certain news outlets, and that's it. But
so they're all nightly news. Whenever I visit my parents, it's all they watch every night. So that theme song, I just think of my parents whenever it's starts. But in Silicon Valley, one of the CEOs, which is basically making fun of Larry Ellison, had a baby with Sergey and all them at Google. So it's that's the best way to describe it, right, Dan? That's what they really are.
Yeah.
But he uses, every time he ever has a board meeting, we'll get a real endangered animal to use as an example for whatever he's doing. Think of the elephant, it never forgets, and it'll actually bring an elephant. So when you bring out the checkbook, I was like, this is you had that prop. It had to be ready to go.
No, I carry 3 things with me, and we live in a community that there's a lot of trust, so you can still write a check. I carry this little book right here, moleskin book.
Nice.
Okay. I carry my checkbook, my wallet, which is this big. It's in my briefcase, and my checkbook. And that's it.
So I'm with you on the notebook. Actually, let's talk about this for a second, because I'm the same way. I don't carry a moleskin little notebook, but I have 50 of these in my closet, and I go through one of these a week.
My goodness.
I go through one a week.
We need to streamline that a little bit there.
Efficiency not on point.
No, well, listen, I go through one of these a week, because everything from meeting notes to ideas to to-do lists to just overall thoughts, everything.
I actually want to hop back. There's a really specific point that I heard you say that I think is worth highlighting, which is that when you're talking to investors, at least I've learned, is that more than not, at least the good ones, they invest in the people, not the idea for the most part. It's who's the person that can drive the vision, who can execute on the plan and drive the results. And that's what I find over and over again, more than anything.
Dan, you couldn't have said it better. I mean, you can always calibrate a process, an idea, a function, a service. You cannot, you can change people, but over a long course of time. So investors are going to invest in you and your ability to communicate, deliver, articulate, your trustworthiness, your results in the past, more so than your product, because we know we can take products and iterate and calibrate and make them better. And so, Dan, that is a beautiful point. I think a message that really needs to be heard.
Yeah, I do too.
So talk about scaling your business. So you have early traction, you have early revenue, you have early customers. You basically entered your teenage years where you know where your potential is, but your voice still kind of cracks that era where like you now know what you can become. So let's talk about like what are some techniques that you guys implemented or did to help scale your operations that you think any company could probably put in their own playbook, or at least similar in aspect that was successful?
You know what it was? It was very simple. Faith and respect for people, for clients. We had faith in ourselves, and we had respect for the people that we were asking to do business with us when we had no footprint and no metrics to provide to show results or outcomes. And we've also applied a real kind of like a science and research and development protocol into all of our designing. So this was something that early on we implemented across the board, and all of our team works off of the same kind of platform. To get people to really believe in what you're trying to do, you have to again support what they're trying to do. And if you don't understand what they're trying to do, then like don't get in that zone. I mean, the most important thing is to be, again, that risk of not understanding a process. We wouldn't go out there and tell people, hey, yeah, we can do it all. We can make it happen. People do forward sell, but we were always very careful to be in our lane. We were very careful to stay focused on what we did best and then scale from there. We scaled the company based upon where we knew where we can go. We were focused on quality, not so much quantity. I wasn't concerned if we were getting a new customer every day. We were concerned if we were getting the right customer that we can establish a long-term relationship with for 10, 20 years. I mean, I see customers that we have now that we're going to have a relationship indefinitely because the results keep coming and the trust and the confidence is there. So as long as you can start with that baby step of planting that seed. Look at our branding and our tree. Our tree, the logo of our people. I get that question. Why is the logo a tree? Well, a tree, you plant it. It's a seed, or maybe it's a seedling. It starts out. I mean, it's fragile. It's delicate, just like any other business. And then as it grows, it matures. It can also be susceptible to illness. It can get, it can be affected by a number of conditions, including weather, humanity, the environment. But then it can flourish and it can produce fruit. But also a lightning bolt might hit it tomorrow and break off half of the freaking tree. You know what I mean? But know that the tree can withstand that. So that is the essence of our own branding. And that is the methods and the philosophy, I guess, behind what we deliver to our clients. A sense of holding that mirror up to them and showing them what they can become in the future.
What would you say was the biggest struggle that you've had doing your own business that you never would have expected that you had?
The biggest struggle for me was really relying on the wrong people. I just really put a lot of faith. I was kind of naive, and I think every young person is. We want to believe that these people have our back, or they're thinking about us first, and they're not just concerned with profit first. And obviously, running a business, you must be concerned with generating a profit, or else you're just a upside down charity. But for me, the struggle and was that I was just like everyone else. I was waiting for permission. Everybody's waiting for permission to do something. You don't need the permission to go and do X, Y, Z. If you feel strong about it, if you're passionate about it, get out there and do it. Put it all on the line, risk it. And that was a weakness of mine early on because I wasn't, I was just kind of waiting for someone to tell me it was okay or that it was going to work out or, and sometimes it doesn't work out, and that's okay. You have to be able to take that failure, that pain, and move forward with that.
So if I go in specifics of like clients in particular, like give us some examples, like some successes you've done. Like, what are some things that you've been able to do for your customers? And for those that are listening to have an idea, like truly what a design firm does, like, what are some things you guys have done that like that produces the results that are just like, holy crap, we did?
So we serve a variety of clients, everyone from blue chips to small mom and pops and startups. And so I would say that 30% of our business is startups and innovations and services and products that no one has ever heard of. And then on the other side, we're doing incredible things with variety of industries in the financial world, in the biotechnology world, in the pharmaceutical world. I'm not going to pump any of my individual clients. Maybe I could tell you a couple that were just incredible success stories. We have an innovator that's a 3-time deployed combat veteran, and he has developed a phenomenal energy solution. It's about this big. It has more output than anything that is on the market right now. And that product is going to change the face of energy. I'll be releasing more information about that. But right now, I mean, I don't think it's the time. The success for them came in proof of concept, going to Aberdeen Proving Grounds and having the Army certify it. And that led, other relationships where the Army themselves in their private sector role, let's say, they needed to reach out and develop relationships with civilians that didn't understand, what they were doing. And we know what went on with the Vietnam era, but I mean, for us, one of the things that really brought a lot of success was helping bridge a gap between public and private, government and, business, bringing people together and building relationships. We launched the biotechnology project in 2007, an artificial intelligence-based pediatric clinical assessment support tool. It qualified as a medical device, and we didn't realize we're navigating into waters that essentially made this technology tell people, hey, you either have this condition or that condition. So I feel very proud of the fact that we designed something not only with branding and engineering, but that saved lives. We have, measurable, data that supports the fact that suicide risk, traumatic brain injury, post-traumatic stress, we were able to identify these things with our technology. To me, that's the one thing that really was a catalyst for me, that showed me, hey, we can take technology and great that it provides conveniences for you to communicate through your phone or whatever, but we also need to create technologies that are helping people, that are, again, like Dr. Kingsley says, improving the human condition. That to me is the most important thing. And the success stories we have all meet that criteria. I've been able to personally get behind these initiatives. I turn customers away if I can't get behind their idea, if I know it's not viable, if they don't have proof of concept. Now, we can get you to proof of concept, but again, it's about having these things in place, having a discipline, and I think that then the results come in.
How big's your team right now, out of curiosity?
So we have a footprint that's very lean. In the past, we would have a lot of people doing a lot of things and really duplicating efforts. And some companies really think that that's important. We have people who are willing to do multiple things. So short answer is there's 7-8 people in 9 cities that travel back and forth. 2 of them travel back and forth. We have a presence from Tucson to Berlin to Atlanta to Columbus. And thankfully, we've been able to surround ourselves with people who believe in this philosophy. I don't make it just about the firm has my name on it. And I learned that lesson long ago. It's my knowledge and skill sets that we're building, but everyone has adapted and rallied around a mindset of service, a mindset of inspiring our clients. And you can be very successful with a lean team. You don't need 50,000 people to do one thing. Now, if you're in an operation that requires very intensive logistics, you will need a lot of people on the ground. Make no mistake. But if you are delivering a design type product, you need solid executives, people who have your best interest in mind and that can travel fast and can get to the scene. I mean, we'll be in, just like you know where you were a couple of days ago and we just happened to cross paths. I mean, if you're not able to get there and deal and solve and resolve those issues right away, then it makes no sense to have 15 people in one city. Have one person in one city that can really, execute, bottom line.
So walk us through then, what is your average day-to-day look like? Your day-to-day, what are you dealing with? Like, when do you wake up? When do you go to bed? What happens in between on an average day?
So there are a lot of people that talk about routines and having all these established routines. For us, there is none. A few weeks, we might be working our ass off till 4 o'clock in the morning. And design for us, a lot of it really, some of the best design cranks out in the evening hours. But since we have a West Coast presence as well, we're working when other people on the East Coast have already stopped working. So the phones are ringing, clients are calling. All of our infrastructure is supporting operations also in Europe. I mean, from Berlin, also in South America. So it's a 24-hour gig for me. I answer the phone at 3 in the morning. I answer the phone at 1 in the afternoon. I'm interfacing with clients at all hours. Yeah, you have to have some structure, and you have to, especially while you're growing, you do bootstrap. But personally, normally, I'm working until around midnight and sometimes 4 in the morning. I get up between 6 and 7 a.m. And my partner, Mark, who is a wonderful asset to my life, makes sure that everything's in place with our home. And you have to have the right people around you, really, to make sure that even if you have variable wake-up hours, or your schedule is not consistent and you don't have this routine, that you can adapt to that. Now, there are years where we have contracts that require us to be in a very disciplined routine. So I would say there are times where our firm has had to be like, okay, we're a 6 to 5 type operation for these months, for these initiatives. And then there are other times where we have a client in Berlin that needs something at the same time where a client in Montevideo, Uruguay needs something. And we have to be able to be flexible and adapt. So it's hard to say that, we get up at 6 a.m. and go to bed at 10. It just doesn't work that way. And if you think it works that way, good luck to you.
Would you say that you kind of built that entrepreneurial mindset into everyone, or do you think the people you bring into your team are all entrepreneurs and a sorted heart? Because that's where that real, I feel like that's where you really find that drive a lot more. Like in the corporate culture, you get a lot more of that 9 to 5 stiffness, but it sounds like you've kind of made that part of your culture, or you're bringing those people directly in.
I have, Dan. That's exactly right. One of the first things that Joshua and I talked about when we first met, he would not hire people that he couldn't put in front of the client. So people have to have that same passion, drive, and commitment. And if they don't have it, you're not going to teach it to them. I mean, yeah, you can foster that type of mentality by showing them these new techniques and methods. But there's an innate quality about people that either they have it or they don't. It's a passion. And it's also a willingness to listen and learn. Because I always tell my staff and all of our team, every day we're teaching, every day we're learning. Okay? And if you don't have that mentality, you're going to fail. If you don't have the ability to accept direction and being told that you're wrong sometimes, if you're going to fall apart emotionally, then, you're not going to make it and you're not going to work with me. That is something that is very important for me. Again, I'd rather have 6 people than 50 people, of which 10 are emotionally fragile and going to fall apart at any second. We can't put them in front of the client. And I learned that by being in that corporate world, in that biotech world, where we had to coddle certain people and make things comfortable for certain people. No, this is the game plan. This is the vision. This is the strategy. And either you're getting on the train or you're getting off, but the train is leaving the station.
It's almost like, what's it called? One thing I feel like maybe you'd get this really well is not playing into that, like, oh, but we tried and we learned mentality. It's like, okay, I got it. You failed. But now it's, what are the 4, 5, 6 things you're doing to solve the problem and deliver the results we were originally going after?
Amen. And you know what? You will fail, and it's okay. And you have to be willing to accept that. If your ego and your pride is so big that, you're going to just fall apart at the seams the minute you fail at something, you're not going to make it. If you want to be an entrepreneur startup, go work somewhere where you're going to get a check, that you can get there at 7 in the morning, 8 in the morning, clock out at 5, and you can go home and flip your TV on and microwave your dinner and live a very simple, mediocre life. We don't do vanilla. Now, you can be vanilla with sprinkles, but we like chocolate swirl, we like strawberry, we like blueberry, we like all of
Rocky Road, where's that, guys? Let's be real.
Yeah. Some love for that,
What is if you had an ice cream flavor, what would you be?
I'd be chocolate with brownies, but I can't even eat it. I'm like the fat kid with the chocolate and the brownies and that, but.
Dan, yeah. What flavor would you be, buddy? Let's hear it.
Whatever the worst thing you could possibly order at Cold Stone, any of those. Birthday cake, it doesn't matter.
I was going to say birthday cake. That's
it's the best thing ever invented after the light bulb, fire, and Cold Stone ice cream. That's all there is.
Cake powder, vanilla ice cream? Is that what it is?
No, it's like actual cake. They take a piece of cake and they put it in the ice cream.
Dan,
That's pretty much the
are you
best.
not fat enough? Is that what you're suggesting?
Are you kidding me? Look at Dan. Dan is so in better shape than any of us.
No,
Dan,
I'm hiding it.
Oh, wait, okay. Now
Come
the
on, man.
flexing in there. Yeah, hilarious. You know what?
No.
I should have had JDP on here, and he would have been flexing for all of us. Parkman, Parkman is a beast, right?
He's a warrior. No, he's not a beast. He's the next level.
He's a warrior.
No, you made
And somebody else who really, really drives home the importance of nutrition is Jan Heineman. She's on our team. Her husband Kevin as well. I mean, you got to eat right, but you don't also have to be doing like all these specific shakes and this and that or whatever. But in terms of ice cream flavors, like give yourself a little reward. Be a little bit of chocolate.
So our very last episode, we had Jen Groover on. So we talked to her about like the actual science behind food and energy in order for you to be more efficient as an entrepreneur. So I went into it like the people who eat like, I'm going to go for a meeting and have 6 slices of pizza. Why do I feel like shit the afternoon for the rest of the day? Well, maybe because you just loaded up on enough carbs to feed you for a whole week for lunch could be a reason why. So actually, I was listening to an awesome podcast coming back from Syracuse 2 days ago, which was interesting. You're talking about sleep, which was the Lewis Hose podcast, which was about the science of sleep. Where you had an expert on sleep on the show. And the idea is most people think it's about how much sleep you get. But the idea is like more like investing. It's more about timing when you get sleep, not how much sleep you put in. Timing the market and the idea is like you have to understand there's 4 parts of your REM. There's 1 and 2, which is rapid eye movement, where you store memories from the day. 3 and 4 is your anabolical state, where muscle repair, energy repair, your body like putting out the hormones need to function. I know I fall asleep here, but the important thing is between 10 p.m. and 12 p.m. or 12 a.m. is when you get the most of 3 and 4, which is most critical for health. And they found by studies that people will degrade almost 20% less effective if they're not sleeping between 10 p.m. and 12 a.m. And even worse, if you do that substantially, people are losing 20, 30 years of their life expectancy because their body's not recovering. So like that little 2-hour window, the science behind it is it's better for you to sleep from 10 to 2 a.m. than it is to go from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. because you're actually more critically hurting yourself.
I actually did I can't remember who wrote it, where I read it, but I made the switch where basically I would put myself to sleep in like 15 minutes and I'd put myself right into a stage, 3 REM. And I would do that like 2 to 3 times a day. And I'd never go over like 4 hours of sleep. And it was the most weird experience of my life, but I highly advise read into the sleep stuff. It definitely is interesting what you can do. And really,
because the part of what I've always am trying to do is figure out how can I optimize my own energy level. So, for example, I cut out caffeine completely. I have no caffeine, and now it's almost like so listen. For a month, I felt like complete horseshit. I really did. I just had headaches. I felt terrible. But once you get back to your normal balance, what your body is, it's like if I need energy, I can just like go into my chest and pull it out. Like I just naturally have it. Like there's no mid-afternoon like I feel like I need to crash or I need to drink a cup of coffee feeling anymore. And it's incredible. But again, going to the science of it, the idea is like caffeine, people don't realize, stays in your system for 8 hours after you consume. So when you have coffee at 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon and you're trying to go to bed at 10, 11 o'clock, that's why you're having trouble going to sleep because caffeine is still in you. And you impacts getting your deep sleep that you need to recover. And then one more thing, I'm all about like, I have trouble sleeping, not because of that, but because my mind's always racing. I'm always trying to think like, what do I need to do? What do I need to work on? What do we need to focus on as a company? What do I need to be, putting my energy in? And though it's an asset, you have to kind of train your body, your mind to say, this is time for sleep. So I've been putting a lot of time and energy into building like the ideal sleep environment in my bedroom. So there's no electronics, mostly plants and the water trickle and like there's no light. So the idea is literally training my bedroom. So when I go in there, I know sleep, like literally like a hypnotist telling someone to go to sleep, like program yourself. And your body's, we're a creature of habit. Like I can't tell you the neuroscience inside our heads. Like it's the idea like if you cut out like sugar, why you suddenly start having these midnight cravings, like I need glucose, and your brain's smart. It'll automatically, well, you have cookies in your drawer, automatically go after the cookies because you want energy. So, but it's the same thing in your sleep environment. If you train your brain saying, in this bedroom, I'm going to do work, I'm going to do chores, I'm going to do this stuff. What you've now done is your brain doesn't associate that environment for sleep. It's associating it to do other activities, which is keeping you awake. And you have to literally, that's the same thing here. So you see in my video office, I will only work in here. No socializing, nothing. When I'm in here, it's all in work. If I leave this room, I can do whatever else happens. But I'm programming myself to say, this is a room of work. This is a place of business. Nothing else, no other bullshit will happen here. And I'm getting to the point where, I'm a true believer in JW. I'm sure you can comment on this and going back to you a little bit, which is like many entrepreneurs, I'm going to do quotations, don't go all in. And to the point of all in, I mean, like when I'm working, I won't even answer my best friend calling me unless he sends me a text message saying the word emergency in all caps, because this is my place of work. There's a time and place for me to be socialized, pleasant. But when I'm in here and I'm at my desk, I am focused on just my company, my clients, and nothing else. Nothing else. Any other distraction, I'll deal with you when I get out of here, or when I go to the gym, or when I'm doing, leisure, things like that. And I'm not saying not have a work-life balance, because, I pride myself on having that, between spending time with a girlfriend, getting to travel, things like that, eating at restaurants. I'm very spoiled when it comes to that. But when I'm in here from about 7:30 in the morning till about 8, 9 o'clock at night, in between when I leave occasionally, that's it. Nothing else is happening in here. That's it.
I love it, man. That's why all the girls are beating down the doors.
Yeah. My girlfriend might want to beat the crap out of them if they are, but yeah. So
you got to have that work-life balance for sure. I mean, you see like people like Jan and JD and Mark and Arisha and the guys even that are, who have started this foundry where I'm broadcasting from. I mean, there's no rhythm, no time. They're in here at all hours in the morning. When there's a certain time where you can be on a regimented schedule and you can have everything locked down to the T and have all of your certain vitamins and nutrition, but there's also time where you have to throw caution to the wind and maybe get a little unconventional and take that call from your granny and connect with your neighbors and
Absolutely.
Take 5 minutes out. And if you're working until all hours of the night, that's what you're doing. I mean, it just depends on the stage where your company is at that particular moment, and also where your own emotional strength or your ability to cope is. Some people everybody obviously we know is different, but
no, and that's one of the things, right? Is I'm not suggesting like my mindset's like out. I mean, multiple points in the day. I can't remember the name of the theory offhand, but the idea is like our brains can only focus up to like a 45-minute interval at a time, and you need like a 10, 15-minute lapse. I mean, my idea is whenever I'll do that often, like in between meetings, I might go downstairs, and my favorite things in the world is to go out on the balcony for 5 minutes, just like absorb life for a couple minutes, and doing that, like, let the rest of the world's impact come in. But the idea is like when I'm in this room, when I'm in this environment, is like, this is a work zone, but understanding like train your brain to disconnect between the two.
Well, I mean, again, you have to train your brain to do a lot of things. And if what you're saying is important, I think when you reach the scale of like Chop Dog, I mean, you really have to have this military-like precision, but also the flexibility to move around. I think when people get locked into like a routine, I can't do that right now because this time I do this, then you might be also missing opportunities.
Absolutely.
Especially to connect,
Absolutely.
And I think that, again, to me, it all goes back to that spirit of service. Like, I mean, if a client has an emergency, I mean, I really wanted to do certain things the other day, for example. And in the launch of this foundry was something very important. We dropped everything we were doing to make sure we could be here for the launch of the foundry, to rally the community, to draw interest, to explain to high net worth individuals why we need this in our community for economic development. I mean, so we had to change our entire workflow. We had to change our schedule. And I think the inability to adapt in general in life is a downfall of a lot of people that don't succeed. So what you're talking about is, the inability to adapt will crash more businesses, destroy more families, wreck more bank accounts than anything else.
Completely agree. I want to go into, here's another interesting one, which is, what are some of the things you do that you would have told yourself to do? Or like, let me rephrase. What's one piece of advice you would have given yourself 16 years ago from what you've learned now that you think would have been most?
Stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting for someone to tell you you can do it. I mean, encouragement and support is important. It's great. You got to have that, but you have to rely on your own abilities. You have to have a sense of self-worth. I wish I didn't rely on some people that I relied on. But again, if I didn't go through that pain, I wouldn't learn. You have to go through that pain. You have to learn. Without that, there is no glory in any success. If you get there all by yourself by knocking everybody else down, at the end of the day, you might have a lot of money, but you're not going to have a lot of love. And love is really the most important currency, as cheesy and cliche as that sounds. Love and faith and respect. Those are the things that, you know, you just can't put a price tag on. So, I mean, to me, those are things that I worked on and had to develop. And over time, just through experience, had to realize were as important as they are.
What's one thing you're working on right now you feel you still need to improve for yourself?
Personally, you mean?
Yep, personally, overall.
Always patience. You know, I want things to happen not right now, but within the scope of work or the scope of time that I have plotted out. And we have to understand that the universe, and regardless of your faith and your religion or whatever, has plans for you that you don't even know. So I had to learn this concept that we all know now of, you know, knowing what we know, knowing what we don't know, but most importantly, knowing what we don't know that we don't know yet. And patience is so important. What you don't know that you don't know yet, you don't know. So be patient and let the universe guide you.
I'm sharing that last 30 seconds with my Twitter.
There you go.
How much of your core then do you believe you control your own destiny versus there's a predefined destiny versus maybe more manifestation concept? So let's go into this topic for a second. Like, how much of your core believes in what?
I think it's a balance. You know, you can set conditions so that you get certain results. Obviously, you use proof of concept, you use existing formulas that have worked in the past. You don't try to reinvent the wheel. You upgrade and you make things better. But at the end of the day, you can believe that you want to be a unicorn all day long and that you're going to grow this horn and you're going to turn into a unicorn, but it's not going to happen, you know? I mean, and a lot of people think that they're just going to manifest themselves into this higher being, and you can. Yes, there are levels of consciousness. I don't want to get into a spiritual and a philosophical, but I do want to say this. If you believe with all your heart that what you are doing is for the betterment of others, and you have a spirit of service in all that you do, the results will come. If you think about other people first and serving others first, all of your dreams will come true. It's when you start thinking about just yourself and what am I going to become and what am I going to do, and I've always put my energy into cultivating and building up other people, and that's why our firm has been successful. That's why I feel like I've been successful. Is every client, every person, every partner that we've supported, it's been about them, about building them up, about holding that mirror up to them and saying, this is what you are today, but this is what you can become in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years, if you just keep on going and incorporate a little bit of what I said I was lacking, which is patience. You can manifest a lot of things into your own personal identity in your own life. But I think when it comes into business, if you just want to say, I know our business is going to succeed, you believe it and you know it in your heart, then yes, you have the energy, the drive, and the passion to get there. But I'm not sure that it's enough. You have to have it's the potatoes on the plate, but you need the meat on there too.
What does the word greatness mean to you?
To me, that's a very selfish, internal word. Greatness to me is about our communities rallying together, about, once again, our country, our nation, our world, everybody getting back to this idea of exporting our culture, our art, our beauty, our fashion, our design. That's greatness. That's what the world loves about us. When I travel abroad, they don't talk about how big and badass our tanks are. Oh my gosh, y'all have this really killer B-52. And props to all my Army friends, Independence Day weekend, we're celebrating. And the work they do is important. But at the end of the day, the world loves us and consider us to be great because of our music, our art, our culture. Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston, woo, all that. You can't design that. That's innate.
What about legacy? What do you want your legacy?
Hold on while I hydrate.
Hydration permitted.
Legacy is some people want to design their legacy. We help people hold that mirror up and reinforce what that legacy is, and where that legacy is going and where it can become, because it's growing, it's adapting. To me, legacy is about the mark and how you made people feel, what you left behind, that can never be destroyed, that can never be taken away, that is going to be ingrained in humanity and in the world forever. And sometimes we can't design and create that. In a business sense, we can help businesses develop a legacy, highlight that legacy. But as an individual, the legacy is just going to be about how you made people feel about things. If you hurt them, if you were behind them, if you let them go when they needed you the most, that's going to be your legacy.
Where do you see your company going the next 5, 10, 15 years? Like, where is your long-term vision taking your company?
Right now, our company is committed to serving all of the wonderful clients that we've had the privilege of serving for over 16 years in varying scopes and capacities. We want to really see health information technology take off. We want there to be a greater sense of innovation in that sector. We really want people to build technologies that are, again, working to improve the human condition. I see our company continuing to serve the entrepreneur, their startup. And you know what? Again, with our own money, putting our money where our mouth is, with our own checkbooks, not going to the bank and saying, try to go get some money, then come talk to me. No, you know what? We'll help you. Our model is that. I mean, we don't necessarily straight up fund, but we'll support somebody who has an initiative. So I see our company in two ways. One of them is supporting our flagship clients that have been with us forever and continuing to scale and grow and improve their footprint. And on the other hand, cultivating, supporting, mentoring people who want to also come up and deliver solutions to make our lives better, to make all of our lives better. Some of them might be hits, some might not be hits. But again, if we don't all rally together, explore, try to see what we can do to get there, then it's just worthwhile. It's not worthwhile.
What can our listeners on Podcast Nation do for you? What do you need help with, or would you like Podcast Nation to do for you?
You know what I would like from everybody is just to look within themselves and see what they can contribute to our society that is not a direct benefit to themselves, but is a direct benefit to the people around them, to their communities. To get back to that idea of exporting art, culture, beauty, music, I want everyone to talk to their neighbor. When you're in the pew at church or synagogue, or when you're at your place of worship, when you're at the library, when you're in school, turn to your neighbor and say, what can I do for you? What can I help you with? Think about others first, and you'll see that the rewards will come tenfold. If you think about yourself first, you're just never going to get anywhere. I mean, you might have money, but that's not success. You know, success is when people can really trust and believe in you, and they know that you have their back.
I feel like, for example, it's the idea of like having it all. If you just have money, you don't have it all. The idea of like, how can you be a well-rounded personal life, professional life, respect, giving back, community, every aspect of it being well-rounded is kind of where the theme, I feel, is where you're coming from. Is that accurate?
It is about that. It's about being well-rounded, but also a call to action really for people who have made it, people who are high net worth individuals who right now can really look backward and give a hand back, not a handout. Just say, what can I do? What can I mentor you with? What can I provide for you as a resource? Can I create some kind of access for you? We all have that ability. If I know that there's a film festival that can help young people get interested in film, or people who are already adults who are interested in film, or if there's an endowment or foundation, or if there's something that we can support, take 5 minutes out of your time to pay it backwards, to pay it forwards, but really look back and help somebody else come up the ranks. That's to me so important.
How can people find more about you, more about your company, more about what you're doing? And I'll make sure to include all this in the show notes. So for everyone listening, you'll see this on iTunes, you'll see it on our main page. But yeah, how can everyone?
All right. So, I mean, I think in the previous question, I could have very easily said, hey, guys, get with me and we'll give you 20% off if you contact us now. No. You want to start a conversation with us. You want to learn about what we're doing, and you want to help improve the human condition in whatever way, scope, shape, or form. Get up on Twitter at GWHDUSA. Even on Facebook. On Facebook, you can go / GW Handal Designs with an S at the end, or just on our website, gwhdesigns.com.
What do you think should be the one takeaway for everyone who's listening to this episode that you want them to, as I mentioned, take away from this episode and now put into their own day-to-day grind, life, hustle, whatever?
I think the main takeaway is that let's all try to rally together and work together and really elevate the sense of empathy for people and others. You don't have to be the minority that's impoverished in the ghetto, but you should at least put yourself in the mindset of that person. You must understand what the startup entrepreneur is going through. You must give them the bandwidth and the space to do what they're going to do, and just to support one another. You know, everybody's very quick to have all the answers and yell at you on TED Talks. And, you know, like I could just think of 15 people right now that are over there, like they had one breakout hit with one product and all of a sudden they're the expert and they're like, just do it, go after it, get crazy, okay, tear it up, get wild, get wild. But what we need to do is just calibrate. Calibrate. Think about each other.
That's easily the best thing I've ever seen on the show.
Let's man. Dave, why are you not sharing the last 30 seconds right now?
I hope I didn't miss it.
Hey, hopefully I didn't fry the 3D printer back here at River City Foundry.
For those who can't, you're only listening on iTunes.
That was kind of my plan.
I can't even describe it. She told you, took the water bottle. There it is. It just looked out the lid and just like threw it everywhere.
RAP water bottle.
Oh my goodness.
You guys like it? Take the water. Just if you have like a really some Herman Miller furniture or anything. Oh, Herman Miller.
I feel like just because you did that, I need to now in meetings with clients, whenever it gets like escalated, just like have a water bottle ready to go to like just prove my point. Doing what you did, just throw it everywhere. Just like that was awesome.
We just got to drive empathy and care and love and compassion for others. It's so simple. It's really so simple. It's not that complicated, you know? And if you got to throw some water around and get people's attention,
the water bottle technique. Oh, man. Dan, what am I missing? What questions?
I always like to
I don't have any more water.
don't throw the coffee.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend that.
No. Coffee's too good.
I always like to do this one of these at the end. Is you said you don't watch a lot of TV, you're always working. What's your balance? What's your off, your fun, your hobby? What do you do outside of the work and of that in your life there?
I love to fish. I love to draw. I mean, I lived in Miami, South Beach, New York, all over the place. Hold on, I got water like all over my screen.
That's weird. I wonder how that happened.
It's just like I might have to buy a new computer after this. I don't know what happened. I think it started raining in here. But my relief comes from on the personal side, fishing, being in nature, being with my partner, being with my family. To me, there's nothing more important than my family. And every day going to see my grandmother and calling her, because she reminds me of how far we have come and what's ahead. And she really embeds in me a sense of pride to remind us that if we're driving the car, looking in the rearview mirror, we're going to crash. We need to keep on looking forward. And those are the things I do. I mean, I could say I work out and I lift and then I go run 10 miles and all that. Yeah, that's great. That's, Dan, you look good. You look good. But if you got the best guns and muscles and abs, but your family doesn't even connect with you and you guys just don't have that, there won't be any legacy for anyone to celebrate and remember. Just keep that in mind.
Well said, man. Well said.
So why Georgia? Out of curiosity, what's made you stick around for Georgia for so long?
Georgia is the state of second chances. And we see so many people that come here and they have maybe lost it all, been abandoned, been hurt. Atlanta is the corporate hub of America, but many people don't realize that Columbus, Georgia, right a block from here is where Coca-Cola was invented. Google that. I'm sitting across the street from the Coca-Cola Space and Science Museum. We're sitting in an entrepreneurial, creative, just a foundry, a place where, and not foundry in the sense of where we're, doing steel, like what the classic definition is in the modern lexicon, let's say. Columbus, Georgia is a very forward-thinking place. We have people of varying ethnicities. We have a vibrant health culture. We have a huge art scene. You go down Broadway in Uptown Columbus, you will see art on every corner of every street because of the college. There is a sense of community here that we are always introspective. We're looking forward. We have people like Electric City Life and a lot of different organizations and nonprofits that are working to really improve the conditions in Columbus. And to me, that tells me that the future is very bright for this city. We have phenomenal leadership. We have phenomenal companies, employers, and every day we're working to improve. You look at the statistics for the cost of living. You look at, I need to call the mayor after this and see if, or maybe the chamber and convention bureau, visitors bureau. But you know what? We have people that are working their ass off every day to make sure that the citizens of this city and others, and even around Georgia, really have a great quality of life. We don't sit in traffic for 4 hours every day. We come home to our families.
I'm jealous of that.
And you know what? You guys need to come down and check out this river situation here. We have, I believe it's a level 7 course. We have a river that it's just incredible. You don't have to even bring your kayak. Okay. We got your kayak.
Let's do it, Dan. Dan, I'll challenge you to a race out there too, man. We'll get you on some white water. It'll be fun.
You're gonna lose, but sure, whatever makes you better.
I am undefeated since '93, so.
You were born in like '94, though.
No, I was born in '93, man. I'm 0-0, undefeated, man, in kayak races.
Guys, I don't even want to tell you.
Boss ever.
This is what most of the shows actually are. Just us arguing.
This is arguing. We have something wrong.
Yeah. But you know what? Like, even think about like just how Joshua and I connected with Dan and Joshua. Like, you guys have been doing this for other people. You're not doing this for yourselves. You're doing this for other people. Putting together this vehicle, this portal, so that other people can gain knowledge. And it's not some boring tech talk where somebody's lecturing to you. You know, we're having a
well, one of us is throwing water around. I'm not going to put point any fingers, JW. GW.
Hey.
But you know, how's that water bottle on the ground? By the way, is it still there? Did you keep that water bottle on the floor? Has you even picked it up yet?
I'm sorry.
It's a memento forever.
Like 80% full when you did it, man.
Where is it?
You asked for permission ahead of time, right? You were like, "Hey, Foundry,
look at that."
No?
No. On my sweet grandmother's life, that was not something we planned to do. And I hope that it didn't get on any of the machinery back here.
GW, as always,
it's
an absolute pleasure. We can't thank you enough for being on the show. I personally can't thank you enough for your friendship with us. And it clearly shows how much you just care about helping people, giving back, just putting everyone else before you. And it's truly humbling, and it's truly, inspirational. And I think a lot of people who are listening to the show or going to watch the show have a lot to learn and take away from that mentality. So on all of us here at the podcast, we thank you. And all of the notes from today's discussion, today's episode, will be included on iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, YouTube, and Blab. Well, not actually Blab, but on chopdog.com/podcast. Just a reminder, this is episode 18 of the podcast, brought to you by both chopdog.com, DAWG. If you need an awesome web app, mobile app, wearable app, and you're looking for an awesome team to help bring it to life, reach out to us. Free quotes, free proposals. We're here to help. And also get20.com, which I'll let Dan say because I'm not going to butcher his speech.
No, keep it short and simple. If you're looking for affordable legal help for a new startup or small business, primarily Illinois for right now, but in general, come check us out. We're making it affordable to talk to a lawyer again at Get20. So get20.com.
Nice.
Hey, yeah,
you guys are doing free
7 years straight
That's
doing
amazing.
it.
That's awesome.
We're very lucky to talk to so many ridiculously incredible companies, entrepreneurs, startups. If you really want to go back in time, once upon a time, Dan even reached out to us about 4 or 5 years ago, right, Dan?
Did I?
Yeah, you did. I can look you up. I have you on the record, man.
Is that how we?
We all connected organically, man. But you guys are cranking out some great, phenomenal tools and products. I know that everyone can go to Chop Dog website and see what you guys have been behind. But for us, it's a privilege to connect with you. And just on behalf of myself and all of my team, we just thank you for this opportunity just to connect with you. And y'all come visit us in Georgia. We have a lot of work to do and get back to, even though
that's the plan. I'm going to be working throughout most of it. So I got a lot of catching up to do after all the traveling this last week. I am buried. So, all right, you've been listening to episode 18 of the podcast. Make sure to hit the like button, follow us, tweet about us, leave comments. We love that stuff. It fuels our ego, so feel free to go do that. He's like, what? Thank you, everyone.
We got work to do, guys. All right. Take care.